there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and hope you're lucky enough to be doing it too. I'm Bushka on Blitz, and I'm back with a look at the Object 704 today. The Tier 9 Russian TD. Been a long time coming, haven't done one for quite some time. But thankfully, I looked at it, and yeah, not much has changed. It's still pretty good. I'll get to that in a tick. I've had a wild weekend. I was away with my son in the country at the family farm in Canamble. Basically, poor old Manu the Wonder Dog, my beloved pet, got hit by a car while I was away, and he's currently up at the vets. He's going through an op tomorrow. He's got a busted pelvis, a couple of busted ribs, broken tooth, a heap of cuts and a lot of bark off him. So we're very happy that he's still with us. But yeah, also I'm going to be asking him to shell out for the doctor's bills because gee jolly willikers, that is a lot of giggle. There's heaps of changes coming up in game. I want you guys to really stick around. I'm going to be doing a lot of chatting with Wargaming. I want to have a talk to them and see if I can't put out a preemptive strike on the upcoming equipment changes and just talk people through them, because I think there's going to be a very big opportunity for people to be extremely negative on that front, and I don't think they should be. I think there's some pretty cool things coming, and I don't want to be in trouble for breaking an NDA or anything, but yeah, I think there's a lot of good stuff, and I want to talk everyone through it and make sure they understand what's going on, why it's good, and those kind of things before we get the typical knee-jerk reaction, which is, oh my god, they're changing something, oh my god, and just everyone freaks out. Object 704. Gee, I drove this thing a bit soft. I was averaging 2,400 damage in this over 33 games. I gave it a proper nudge. I wanted to see how it drove, and it drove well. Unfortunately, I only won 48% of those games, and that's just really nothing to do with the tank. I mean, you're going to see a couple of games. This one's a big game, big numbers game, and the last game I have. But I went back and looked at the footage to do some cuts, and I thought I'd include just those two games in a little section to show you how efficient and effective it can be as a little brawler. Because I played it far too passively. Really, with this tank, the Russian tanks in particular, they don't have the sniper weapons, and the gun itself on this is great. It's the famed BL-10, which is great. And the Russian guns get 150s all the way through from Tier 6, Tier 7, Tier 8, and Tier 9. But the intimidation factor on them kind of decreases as you go through, because obviously armor profiles get better, and people get bigger hit point pools, and players... you get less and less players who are grinding tanks from stock, which you can take advantage of, like hitting a KV-1S on the lower plate with a 152mm gun in the SU-152 and one-shotting. And that's not happening at Tier 9. And you're seeing Tier 10, which is proper big bugger-off tanks. So it's kind of an interesting one, this, in that I found the tank was exceptionally good. For me, I liked it a lot. But I also don't think it's super strong pound for pound in its tier. I think it's a good TD, and a lot like the video I did recently where I did the non-turreted TD question and how they're goods and they're bads. I think it really applies to a tank like this. And this suffers a lot when it comes up against Tier 10 tanks, because you have some proper dinosaurs up at Tier 10, not the least of which is the 183. You're going to see me angle away here, trying to stop myself from getting pounded, but yeah, one shot, first shot I took, ta-ta, that's a whole lot of TD over there. We do nut him. Now, you have a lot of damage, and you also have a fairly solid rate of fire for 150mm gun. You've got 5.37 rounds a minute. But as I mentioned, it is not the most accurate gun. With all the bells and whistles, rations, rammer, vents, and what else did I run on this thing? I ran vents, rammer, and binoculars, which is probably a bit of a self-explanatory thing there. I wanted to be able to contribute at Tier 10, and found that the best way to do that was not get killed on impact. But when you get lower tier tanks, like Tier 8 tanks, gee, you can be a bully, because they just don't have the hit point pools to deal with you. Your average alpha is 640 on your AP and APCR, and 960 on your big green machine, the Demon Shells, the high explosive. You've also got this lovely bit of spaced armor that people don't realize on the side of this tank. If you look at the side of the tank, you'll see there's a triangle above the second and third drive wheels. That is spaced armor, boys and girls. That is not part of the overall armor profile, the primary armor. It is spaced, and you will see a lot of people fire shells that they think should go in, and they just disappear into that little spaced armor section. And just thank Stalin for that one. It's a big wide tank. I mean, what I was talking about with the ability to bully lower tier tanks. Well, you can see that T-59. He's a fellow from Oxo. Very good. Gets very lucky here, but that's the Russian gun for you. AP, you would have thought that had wronged him, but didn't do it. He's only got 1,300 hit points. He's literally a 2-shot tank for me, which is important because when you get tanks like that, you can do a whole hell of a lot of damage. We're going to miss. We're going to hit him there. Nearly 2 shots, 52 hit points left. Very tough. And then I'm going to let him go around, but I'm going to use that very steep slope so he can't come back up it. We've got company here with the T-54E1, obviously, but we're going to ignore him. Just take some shots and then push down there and get rid of the 59 because he is the danger man. There we go. And that's the kind of tanks you can bully because you are a big dog and your armor profile is actually pretty interesting. You've got that spaced armor on the side, but you've got a very steeply angled upper glacis, and you've got awkward angles all over. So if you're lucky enough to be on a little bit of a slope above them, you can rocket back and forward and get auto bounce zones going on, which is great. But the thing I most recommend in this tank is not being too standoffish. When I looked back at the footage, I was just too passive with it. And being passive in a tank with a gun like this is not good because you're not that mobile. You can get your traverse numbers up to about 37 degrees per second with 31 degrees, not 37, per second with absolutely everything on it and all the bells and whistles. But that's not enough. It really isn't. And you need at times to conserve the hit point pool early and then push when you've got a couple of tanks left. And what I kept doing was conserving the hit point pool, and then being left on my own, as you saw in that first game. And you're going to see the same thing happen in this game. And it also showcases a couple of the really good parts of the tank. You have to know your maps. With all these non-turreted TDs, and I was having a chat with Positive Waves today about the grill. And that's not a non-turreted TD, but a big point that he made was map knowledge. And he's right on, because if you don't know the positions on the maps for these tanks, you will struggle to get consistent damage numbers out, because you're faced with a situation where if you don't know exactly where to go, or if you don't know spots that are likely to give targets, you have to be aggressive in the tank, and the tank's just... it's not mobile enough to withstand that kind of play style. You can be aggressive at the right time, but that right time is not right from the get-go. You've got good camouflage numbers. The tank seems to do very well camo-wise. 0.364, your 0.346 is your dispersion at 100 meters, which is definitely not that flash hot. 5.2 seconds of aim time, which is, you know, around about the same as you're going to get on the Object 268. In fact, the Object 268 really only picks up from the 704 in terms of pen. When you get to the 268, the big difference you're going to see is the penetration numbers. You've got over 300 millimeters of pen on your AP, but you get heat. Now this little baby gets APCR, and APCR makes the medicine go down, because APCR allows you to fire without worrying about whether or not there's spaced armor in the way, or tracks or anything like that. You still don't want to hit tracks if you can help it, but there's certainly not a bad thing to deal with. You're going to see the waffle tractor pop up here. There's the high explosive. Thank you very much. 1014. That's actually an above average roll for a 150mm BL10, which is what you're running. It's 960 is your average alpha. 37 kilometers an hour being your top speed is a little bit of a misnomer. 37's your top speed, but you're not really going to get there. Now, I've pushed up here. You've got to be fair on yourself. I have pushed up here on the right-hand flank, but there's not a lot of targets in front of me, and I'm not going to muck around. I want to get across there and start putting shots in. And this is one of those situations where I'm not sure where the waffle tractor is, so I should have just gone. Instead, I'm sitting here waiting for this Tiger 2, who's a tier 8 tank. If I took one shot from him, I could actually go out there and just kill him. And you've got to really know your numbers like that. You have 640 average alpha. I've given him far too much credit, and I was worried about the waffle tractor, but you can see the waffle tractor's now popped over there on the right, and I've pushed around. I'm going to get the Tiger. That's all well and good, but I could have got him a lot earlier, and the getting would have been a lot better. The tier 9 TD crop is interesting in that I think probably the best TDs for me, the Waffle Tractor is really good, but the T30 and the Yag Tiger are my kind of squeezes. I really like those two TDs. The T30 particularly, I just think is probably the best tier 9 TD. It's just, for me, that is it. And we've pushed up now onto this section here, and we're still putting effective shots across into the sides of the ST1. It's got lovely penetration too, like all your big TDs at this tier. I mean, your penetration is never really going to be the issue. It doesn't hurt to fire promo because promo makes the medicine go down, just like APCR makes the medicine go down. All promo is good promo. And this is where I really stuff it up, because there's an IS-3 defender there. There's an ST1 at the back, sorry, E75 and an IS-3 at the back. And the defender's going to come around the corner, and I really put him in hit point distress. This is where I've conserved my hit points the entire game. I'm on 1,500 hit points. I should have just pushed up and taken a hit from that IS-3 defender and finished him, because the T34 is on 700 odd hit points and the E75 is way lower than that. And it would have allowed me to make it a 2-on-1 fight with about 1,000 hit points left. At least I would have been a good chance. As it is, in this tank, it doesn't have the mobility to deal with multiple targets. You can see the 34 is going to come around the corner, and now I'm just in all kinds of trouble because he's going to go hull down. And I do actually hit him, but the E75 is on my right, and I've got to give one up there. And then the defender's going to pop around here, and it's just all over. Bugger. We managed to bounce one, and that's all well and good, but we're going to go back. So even though, again, we did big numbers, we didn't get the win. And it would have been a Rasenai and Kolobanov combined in one game to get the win. And we did 5.5k nearly. So it's not like we didn't play well enough, but, you know, their 7 were better than our 7. That's all there was to it. Just how the game goes. But it's something that really startles me with this tank is that most of the good games I had was when I picked the right time to push. And nearly all the games that I lost where I was basically the last guy left, and I didn't get any of the Kolobanov love that I normally get when I'm doing a review like this, was me being too passive. So you've really got to watch that magic moment where if the team's got a few tanks left and they've got a few tanks left, got to move a little bit quicker to support them than I probably was there. So the numbers look pretty on paper, but yeah, looking back on it's great. It's one of the best reasons to do videos of your own gameplay too. If you ever want to get better at the game, video yourself playing and then watch it back and be brutally honest about how you play, and you'll find that there's real keynote points that resonate with you, and then you'll take them into the next gameplay. And I know I'm going to go back and play the 704 now, and I bet you I do a bunch better. Because if it's doing 2,400 average damage, it's certainly doing enough damage with 1,500 hit points to influence the game a lot better than 48% would suggest. As always, this was a patron-sponsored post. Patreon is full of fantastic humans. I've actually decided I'm going to put them on the Ammo Whack live stream that I'm doing tomorrow. We have the Ammo Whack live stream. It's going to be fantastic. A lot of giggles, a lot of fun. Basically, if you are on at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on... Now it's tomorrow, so it's going to be Tuesday for the American clients. You will be able to do countings with me, and I will blow you up, and you can blow me up. And whoever blows me up gets to send in a screenshot, and they will go in the draw for the winner Bushka dinner ammo whack competition. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for all the kind words about the dog. If you haven't, I'm on the Facebook page. I don't very often post there, but I did post some photos up of Manu. I don't know how many people actually subscribe to the Facebook feed, but there you go. Stick around. There's going to be heaps of content, absolute bucket loads of content coming down the pipe. I'm really, really looking forward to it. Until next time, boys and girls, stay safe on the battlefield and look after your family and your dog, please.